Hi folks, and welcome to another Sunday Morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, and again, by myself. Just a little inside baseball here. We record two of these every time we come over. And of course, from the story from last week, Mikey still didn't make it. The reason we do these twice, and we do them every other week, is because it was getting kind of hard to do these once a week and make the time. So I came up with the idea, say, hey, if we're doing shorter episodes, let's just do more of them. And if we can, on rare occasions, we'll do 3. I'd like to sit there and do 4 for the whole month, do this later, but everyone does love coming over to do these. So we do it basically every other week. That way it kind of, makes it a little bit easier for us to do these. So I got to do them both because I kind of plan things out every other week, and it's busy around my house. And so the next time people be in is 2 weeks. So I got to get 2 weeks ahead, always. And this is a sad one because I really wish some of the guys would have been around for this one. TV shows that deserved spinoffs that never got it. The reason I say that is no one would have had any of my top 5. No one would have had them. And I know almost for a fact, I have an idea what Mikey would have had several rom-coms. Probably 4 out of the 5 would have been, not rom-coms, but comedies. Would have been comedy spinoffs he would have wanted to see. And so I don't think we had anything that matched up. Now, this one I thought would be easy for me because I automatically knew of 4 that I wanted. I was like, right off the top of my head, I can name 4. Now, let me look in to see what I'd want to see, what other spinoff I'd like to see. And it was so hard to find what my 5th one would be. In fact, my 5th one is more of an honorable mention, but because I couldn't find anything else that I'd want to see. And some of my favorite shows, I'm glad they ended. I don't think Babylon 5 deserved another spinoff. I think they told all the story they had to tell. And there wasn't a character I wish they would follow to show more. Let me see, what was the other one I thought about? Spartacus. I love Spartacus. But you know what? There's no reason for a prequel, sequel, or spinoff. There's no reason for that. The grandest story was told, they wrapped it up, and that was it. All right, I'm fine with that too. And I just started racking my brains of all my favorite shows. I love the Breaking Bad universe. But I agree with the writers, the creators. There shouldn't be any more stories. After Better Call Saul, that's it. Let's leave this universe. There's no other stories to tell. And as I'm looking at all of these shows that I loved watching, I feel like, no, they ended like Dexter. They didn't deserve a spinoff. There's no one to spin off either. So I felt like, no, a lot of my favorite shows don't need a spinoff. I never really was big on comedies, and I did like a few, but back in the day I thought, but would I want them to spin off a certain character? No, I was kind of happy with how things ended on every show I watch. Big Bang Theory, it has its prequel sort of spinoff called Young Sheldon, but any of those guys, would I have wanted them to get their own spinoff? Not really. And so as I kept looking at it and thinking about it, I was like, wow, there's really nothing here that I'd like to have a spinoff on besides the 4 that I've always thought about. And so this list is going to be a little different. I am very interested to hear what your spinoff ideas will be because a lot of people watch more shows than I do. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I know it has a prequel. I'm sure people can think of a ton of spinoffs they'd want to see, but I can't. I honestly can't think of one. A lot of my favorite shows, like I said, I'm happy they finished. And a lot of shows I haven't seen, if they made a spinoff on it, I wouldn't know about it. I mean, I just don't watch that much. I guess I don't watch as many up-to-date TV shows. Now, I will say this, that I did look into older shows. Before the spinoff was popular, is there an older show I would have loved to see? Like, I Love Lucy. Would I have loved to seen the Mertzes, Ethel Mertz go on her own, and I can't remember his name now. Fred and Ethel. No, not really. Without Lucy and Desi, there's no point in having spinoffs of that. I thought about it for the Waltons. I love the Waltons. I think the Waltons TV show is excellent. It's really good. But did it ever need a spinoff for one of its characters, like Yancey or the store owner, Mr. Godfrey? Or, one of the pastors or whoever, or another family member. Maybe it follows Jason as he goes off on his own. No, it really doesn't need any spinoffs. I thought it's perfect on its own. So, and then of course, my wife was a big Dukes of Hazzard fan, but who would they spin off? The Cousins? I wouldn't want to see the Cousins again. A Cooter show just wouldn't have a good ring to it, and the Dukes of Hazzard are the stars. I mean, yeah, Roscoe would be great to see, and Boss Hogg, but they got to have the Dukes of Hazzard to foil their plans. So even thinking about classic TV, the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff like that, nothing really that I could think about when I'm going through TV land. And man, did I do research for this too. I did a lot of research for this. I researched old shows, middle shows. I know my wife would have wanted a spinoff of all 5 Golden Girls. That would be her top 5. A spinoff of each Golden Girl who gets their own individual show. I'm not even joking. That would be her top 5 right now. I don't even think she'd take my my number 5, which is an honorable mention. She would probably love this one, probably one. But for me, there's really nothing. What else did I like? I liked Entourage back in the day. It didn't deserve a spinoff. Well, maybe that would be it. An Ari Gold spinoff. Yeah, there it is. I just answered my question. I loved Ari Gold from Entourage. That's a character I'd like to see more of. His world was getting interesting. Yeah. Wow. I thought about it live right here. Ari Gold, my number 5. Entourage, if you've seen it, it's an older show on HBO. It's pretty good. I haven't rewatched it in a long time. I will eventually watch it again, I'm sure. But the best thing about the show, I did like a lot of the characters, but the best person was Ari Gold. My brother said if there was ever a supercut of just Ari Gold scenes for Entourage, he'd sit down and watch it all. Ari Gold's the only one with the best story arc in Entourage, and it's really good. The movie was meh, okay, more of the same. I did go out in theaters and watch it back in the day. I do have it all on DVD because Mikey gave them to me because he figured he wasn't going to ever watch it again. And I thought I would, but I really haven't. But yeah, so that would be one probably. Ari Gold spinoff. Wow, just can't believe I thought of that. So what was my honorable mention? The one that deserves to be an honorable mention. Sons of Anarchy was a really good show, and I always kind of wondered one about the original gang. Jax's father and a young Ron Perlman, his mother at a young age, and kind of the very beginnings of the club. I thought that would have been interesting. They went with the spinoff Mayans, and I'll be honest, I'm just watching it, waiting for it to end. My wife doesn't even care about Mayans anymore. I really think they've jumped the shark on that show. It's just not good. It's not a good show. It just kind of went off the rails. Just this past season, it went off the rails, and we both lost interest. I know a new season's coming out. I hope it's the last one because it's really not that good of a show. It really isn't. So, but I think they should have done instead a prequel spin-off series, and that would have been interesting. So there's an honorable mention. Now, my wife would have put that probably number 1 because of all her Golden Girls love, she loves her some Sons of Anarchy. That's one of the TV shows that really don't fit my wife's wheelhouse of whodunit murder mysteries and crime dramas. She loved Criminal Minds back in the day. I bet she'd take a spin-off from Criminal Minds too. She's watching the Chicago Fire, Chicago Police, Chicago Med or whatnot. She's watching those now and really liking them. But she's into that kind of stuff. But yeah, wow, Ari Gold. Wow, called it right there, number 5. I'm so proud of that. All right, so let's go on. Let's move on here. Got to move on. Moving on to number 4 then. Number 4 is an easy one because it didn't get a spinoff. It got its own web series, but not an official spinoff from the DCAU A Lobo series. They were thinking about making one. They made this Adobe Flash cartoon that went 1 season online, and you could say it was a spinoff of Superman, but not an official cartoon. And I love Lobo. I love the main man. If they made it a little bit more for adults, I think on Adult Swim this would have been well. And they should have, kind of moved in to talk about negotiations about making a full-fledged Lobo cartoon in the DCAU. I think that would have been great. I love the DC animated universe. I'm a huge fan. For me, it's officially dead now. Since Kevin Conroy passed away, there should be no more DCAU. And I bet there won't either, which is kind of sad because the last movie was in 2019, Harley Quinn, which I hate. I think she's overrated, but that movie was excellent. That movie was excellent. The DCAU literally can almost do no wrong. I thought the Zeta Project was a huge bore for the most part, and I don't know why people like Static Shock. I don't know why. I did not like Static Shock. There's a lot of people who sing the praises of Static Shock, but there's a lot of reasons why I think Static Shock sucks. It is part of the DCAU, but I was not a fan, even though I know a lot of people who love that show. I did love the Superman, Justice League, was it Justice League Unlimited, all the Batman Beyonds. Those are just excellent. Those are top-notch stuff. The movie Brainiac Attacks was officially declared non-canon because it does look like it takes place within the DCAU, but it wasn't made by the creative team. So I found out it doesn't count. I did watch this movie back in the day, and I hated it. I thought it was stupid. It didn't feel anything like the cartoon. And that's because the original writers weren't in charge. And I don't really like Superman that much, but the cartoon was excellent. Excellent. But as spinoffs go, a Lobo show would have been excellent. I would have loved to have seen Lobo. I thought about more in the DCAU and from the Justice League. And, Green Lantern got a movie. The Green Lantern Corps got a movie. I did not think it was that good. No, Justice League got a movie. I don't think Green Lantern got a movie. But I wouldn't want to see one from the DCAU from Green Lantern or The Flash. I love The Flash, but I don't know if a DCAU storyline would have been that good. The only other character from the DCAU that I think definitely deserved a spinoff was Nightwing. Nightwing came in season 3, the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, and I kind of wish he would have gone off on his own, had his own cast of characters. At the time, Chuck Dixon was just killing it with Nightwing, and I think it would have been popular. You would have him Bloodhaven, kind of the same style as Gotham, and it would have been fun. It would have been fun. You filter in a few B villains for Batman. I'm trying to think of who they haven't put in the. Well, you take Maxie Zeus, Firefly, people like that, people that were kind of not used that much in the original series, even though that's a very short list there. What's his name? The Cavalier, the guy that has the sword, looks like a Three Musketeer. You take some of these, kind of one-off characters that are Killer Moth and stuff, and you let Robin, you let Nightwing fight them. I think that'd be fun, and it'd definitely be interesting. So, and then every once in a while, Robin could cameo. Batman, Kevin Conroy could have cameoed. You can't have this now, but back in the day, I always thought Nightwing would have been an excellent spinoff and would have been, game busters for them. And up into Superman, they were very serious with their cartoons. They were made for teenagers or growing adults, and I think they dumbed down the waters again for Static Shock for whatever reason. But the DCAU is excellent, and those are two spinoffs that I think definitely deserved to happen, but never did, and probably never will now. Would I be okay with a Lobo series now? Absolutely. But they can't have Batman in anything anymore, and he was kind of centric to the DCAU. So I don't know if it'd kind of be insulting to have anything else come out after Kevin Conroy. However, if they did, I would definitely watch it because I'm a big DCAU fan. Okay, moving on. The next two I have thought about forever, and I'm having problems about which one I want first. I'll go with this one, The Watcher Chronicles. I wanted a spinoff of Joe, one of the Watcher, and Duncan isn't in this anymore. It's just Joe. He's getting old. You could have it still today, I guess. And he's looking through the Watcher Chronicles, a book of stories about different immortals in different time. And Joe's kind of just opening up a book, and you're getting to experience the story of that time period of some other immortals. And it would really highlight and make some cool characters. Maybe some would be reoccurring characters in the series, and you get to see all of these things through the eyes of the watcher, the adventures and whatnot. I always thought it was a good idea. Back in the day, they used to have this little CD-ROM you could buy. I think it was called the Watcher Chronicles. You put it into your computer, and it pull up files of all the Immortals and their files from the TV show, of course, and the movie, which I thought was really awesome. I remember Bruce bought it. I don't remember what it came in, but Bruce bought this, and we popped in the CD-ROM. We're like, whoa, look at all this cool stuff. And that's when I thought they should do a spinoff of this. Like, showcase all these Immortals that we never heard of, that we never got to see. I mean, Duncan didn't, run into every Immortal out there. So there's a lot of Immortals out there that we didn't get to see that were really cool. And you can go to different age and different periods and different times and tell different stories. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I am a big Highlander fan, right? Read all the books, did reviews on them. My other podcast is called Prince of the Universe. Highlander is a show that I've watched 2-3 times now, and I will watch it again in a few more years. Maybe with my son. Maybe he'll think sword fighting, Immortals and beheading other Immortals is really interesting to watch. But I really love the show. I think it's excellent, and I always wanted a spin-off series to it, and the Watcher Chronicles definitely would have been high up there. The other one, and this one would have been my number one, is Mythos, the series. One of the most interesting characters was Mythos. I have no earthly idea why they gave Amanda her own spinoff. Amanda, the fans loved her, but she is nothing but a sidekick to Duncan. That's it. And on her own, she's not very interesting, as her Raven series that went one season and failed saw. I hate the Raven series. I think it's awful. I don't think I've only watched that once. I probably will not watch that again. I don't know if I could be convinced to watch it, because I really think it's dumb. I think maybe Joe made a cameo in the Raven series, but no one by far was the better character. A former 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The audio drama brought him back, and I thought the audio drama was really good for season 2. And the whole time I was thinking, why didn't they bring this guy back? Mythos is such an interesting character. He's seen so much more than Duncan has. He can go farther back in time than Duncan could, and there'd be tons of stories to tell, and maybe Mythos is still doing his own thing, while Duncan's doing his own thing. So it's Mythos in today's world, with flashbacks. It made sense to me. A lot of people love Fritz. I think Fritz was awesome, but that Fritz was doing guest cameos every so often on the show, that was good enough for me. I don't think I'd have a Fritz show, where they'd spin it off and have him as a character. I just don't see that. But Mythos, such a deep character, such a great character, and I think it would have been awesome to explore. Awesome to explore. I'm trying to think of any other Immortals from that show. There's a few that were interesting here and there, but none of them I'd want to see again, unless it was like a cameo for the Watcher Chronicles. That'd be about it. No villains. I wouldn't want to have a Kurgan series, or a Grayson was a cool villain. Trying to think of what other great villains they had on the show, but really no one else I'd love to see. Something about the 4 horsemen. No, but with a Mythos spinoff, you could have, 4 horsemen tales. Mythos could talk more about his shaded past and have some 4 horsemen episodes, which would be awesome. See the 4 horsemen at their baddest. That's kind of what the audio drama did, which I thought was really good. But of course, I'm going to pick Highlander. Those have always been there, and when I made this list, those were some that I've always thought about when I thought about spinoffs that should have happened. As for spinoffs that never should have been made, I think I already named it. I think the Zeta Project was just a bad idea from Batman Beyond that never should have been made. I think they may have thought they had something good, but they didn't. And let me think. Walking Dead. Goodness gracious. Fear the Walking Dead. Awful. I know they did Walking Dead Worlds Apart or Worlds Beyond or I Don't Care. I never watched it. But, and now all the new Walking Dead spinoffs that are coming out that I will not watch, I don't care about. but Fear the Walking Dead was really bad. So bad, in fact, that they basically reset the show and just kind of ignored the events. They kind of painted themselves in corners and then just kind of hit the reset button and fast forward a little bit and pretended like nothing happened from the previous season. And that was just so dumb. I hear later on they kind of wrap it up maybe in, one episode about what happened and everything, but it was really dumb. Let me see. I gave that show 3 tries. After the first season, my wife and I were like, nope. And then I said, well, I'll give it another second season. I was like, oh, bad. And then during the pandemic, I said, you know what? Let me try that one more time. I really tried to enjoy Fear the Walking Dead. Walking Dead was kind of going the way of the buffalo too. I wasn't enjoying it as much, but I was thinking maybe Fear got better, and it just didn't. Other than that, there weren't, I'm trying to think of other ones. Mayberry RFD I saw for an old school spinoff, and it was nice. They've kind of tied it into, I know now in the box set they call it season 9 or whatever, 10 or whatever, and it's okay. Like, Andy Griffin's basically gone at that point. The first season he made a few cameos, but after that he's kind of gone from the show. And it just kind of, you miss seeing everyone, but Aunt B had left too. And it just felt like, man, the party's over. The party's over. You probably should stop, But of course they didn't. They kept plugging away at it and eventually stopped, and then had that movie, Return to Mayberry, to kind of tie things together. I know Dukes of Hazzard had a spinoff, Enos, which I would love to see. It is impossible to find. No one has it because VCRs really didn't exist back then, and no one has a copy of Enos. I would watch Enos. Only went one season, not because Enos was my favorite character ever, but just because I love the Dukes of Hazzard universe. I would have loved to have seen it. Dukes of Hazzard, if anyone doesn't know, had a crossover episode with Alice, too. Boss Hogg and Roscoe P. Coltrane went to be on the show Alice. For one episode, which was, I never knew this and watched the whole episode once. It's pretty good. And then they also had a novel. I didn't want to talk about this because I just got it from my wife for Christmas, but there's a novel called Gone Racing. This is a wild stretch here, but if you're a Dukes of Hazzard fan and you wanted to know what happened during season 5, like how did the cousins come about? How did the Dukes, who were under, probation, get their permission to go racing on the NASCAR track? Now, the reason they said all that is because they were in a contract dispute with the Stars and they couldn't bring them on the show. So they kind of brought in some subs real quick. Well, this book, Gone Racing, which is pretty cheap on eBay, you can buy. It's excellent. It is excellent. Written by, I think his name is Eric Alder. This book feels like an episode from the show. It even has a Walter Jennings like, the guy kind of giving you the scoop at the beginning and end of every chapter. Oh, those Dukes gonna get in trouble now. Oh, that Daisy, she has a way with words. And the whole thing feels real, feels serious. It explains how they got permission to leave the NASCAR circuit. Explains why they even did it in the first place. And then even sets it up to lead into the 5th season, where the Duke cousins are taking over, and they're leaving them the keys to the General Lee. And there's even a reason why they don't take the General Lee with them by the end of the book. Really awesome. I remember the moment I told Mikey about this book, he went out and bought it immediately. Like, I was so when I got it, I had to call someone. I couldn't tell my wife because it was a Christmas present for her, and Mikey is the only other Dukes of Hazzard fan that I know, or hardcore one that I know. So I called him up and said, dude, you need to get this. He went, already bought, brother. While you were talking to me, I bought it. Now, I don't know if he's read it yet, but my wife hasn't read it. I really hope she does. She may be saving that for next year's beach book trip, but it is excellent. I was really gobsmacked by how good that book was. And it met and exceeded expectations. Of course, I love continuity, right? So I'm going to love anything that falls in continuity with even an old TV show, and that's what this one does. I kind of want, the Waltons have one novel, one spin-off book, and then like 6 children's books, and I think they're kind of cheap to collect. Well, that novel's kind of hard to find, but I would read them if I could get my hands on them pretty easily, but I don't have to read them. It's okay. I thought about it, especially the novel. The children's books may be okay, but they're just short little reads, and they're all focused on the children, little adventures they had. But the Waldens book would be something I kind of want to read, but I don't have to. I think I've gotten the Waldens out of me now. Maybe that's what we should do. Books from TV shows. What books should have been in TV shows? Ooh. I actually really like this idea. Next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange, we're going to talk about books series. I don't even know if Mikey and Benjamin would be interested in that one, but that to me would be an interesting one. And I like it because it explains stuff from the Dukes of Hazzard show. But yeah, that would be mine. So let me know in the comments which one would be yours. We may have to have this one go short. I don't know what else to say here. And I think I still have some. What time? Oh, I have a lot of extra time here. I know this one felt kind of short here, but I don't have anything. I will to say this. Since I don't really do monthly updates as much, I may not say this on the monthly update, but I think I even teased a special guest. I didn't have him on. I am going to have a special guest. I do believe he's coming on next time. I'll have to double check that. But I am going to have a special guest. We're going to have a couple of topics on there. In the chat, I'm going to do something else here too. We have a lot of topics we cover. And there's a few of you who've given me suggestions in the past. Some of them we've done before. I don't mind doing them again. I can't remember which one. Someone asked for like cartoons from the 80s or stuff like that. We did those years ago, but someone like Benjamin hasn't done them yet. And so maybe revisit my list, but I doubt it's changed. But Benjamin's, would be interesting to hear. So let me know in the chat what other ideas you have for top fives. I still have a few ideas I want to get through, and a few topics I am going to circle back on, especially if my special guest on. There's a topic that I know we talked about a while back, and it was very popular, and I kind of want to have him do an update on it. But yeah, let me know what other things you'd want to hear. If it's a new top five I've never talked about before, I'm definitely interested. But we've done so many of these, it's kind of hard to tell. I even have to look them up. If you're wondering also why I don't have a playlist for these, I don't know. Maybe I should one day put a playlist for Saturday Morning Samoflange and Prince of the Universe. It's making the time to do these. Plus, not all of them are on YouTube. We left YouTube for a short time and we're exclusive on Apple iTunes. And then we came back to YouTube. So there are certain episodes that don't exist on YouTube because we took a vote and everyone wanted iTunes. But then they started missing YouTube, so I brought it back for one of my, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 subscribers or something. I brought the podcast back on YouTube because people were wanting it. I know a lot of people listen to it on iTunes. I think YouTube still gets more views than iTunes does. And if you didn't know that, we're on iTunes too. Saturday Morning Samoflange and Prince of the Universe. I know Bruce, I think both of my co-hosts at the time were all doing iTunes, and that's what they wanted, a podcast on iTunes, because it's so cool. I've not listened to one single podcast on iTunes. I don't like Apple products, but it's kind of easy now that it's been set up to go. If something were ever never know, because it's all kind of, Spanish to me. My buddy hooked me up, my cousin's husband hooked me up and told me how to do it. But to be honest, if anything were to go wrong, I'd probably just stop altogether because I don't really care. Even though I think that's how most of my co-hosts or all my co-hosts listen to this podcast. Either way, though, so exciting stuff, exciting topics. But I do want to hear what everyone else thinks, what other topics you think, even topics we covered before. Maybe I'll hit Benjamin up with two of them. That does remind me we are going to definitely have another special guest who's been around here for a while, and I've been wanting to have him on. I just got to meet him around Christmas for the first time. I've known about him and got to meet him. He's a great guy, and I think he has a lot of interesting things to talk about. We may have him on for like one or two podcasts too. I'm sorry to be all secretive on this, but you'll know once the podcast comes out who it is. This is not so, it's special to me because I've always wanted to have this person on. But anyway, that's it for now. Folks, I'm losing my voice, so I will see you next time on another, let's see if I can do this, Saturday Morning Samoflange.